for many consumers, it's still not really clear what the implications are of buying counterfeit products. And so they are not aware of the consequences. And I think that awareness campaigns and education campaigns in this area should go on so that people know what are the consequences of that behavior. Consumer safety is at stake and consumer health is at stake. Because are you aware that spare parts in airplanes can be counterfeit? Or that, microchips in your computer, in your laptop can be counterfeit. Batteries in mobile phones can be counterfeit. And there have been accidents with those products. Or, of course, medicines are counterfeit. This is a problem of consumer health.
Each time you tap in Louis Vuitton on the Google search engine, adverts pop up onto the screen. These companies that are responsible for these ads actually pay Google to come up first, to pop up first when you type in your Google search on the search engine. But many of these companies are actually totally or only exclusively concerned with counterfeit goods. So we've actually commenced proceedings against Google, and we had a legal opinion from the European Commission on the court that went to the European Court of Justice. It's not just about the image that we're talking about here, but we cannot accept that a company is actually making money out of counterfeit goods, and we certainly can't accept this in Europe.
Companies like my own and the brand holders who are here today spend a lot of money in research and development, a lot of money in inward investment, producing high quality, safe goods. The counterfeiter will copy it straight away, with complete disregard to the quality, the safety, the environmental features of its manufacture. Threats to government revenue, quite an interesting point here, in terms of taxation that is raised from legitimate sales. The counterfeiters in the markets, a lot of the markets in the EU, they don't declare their income. There's no chance for inward investment. There's no chance for governments to develop any money or any income from the illicit trade by the counterfeiters.
We've got a growing problem of production and smuggling of counterfeit cigarettes by organised criminal gangs. We need to improve the cooperation with the cigarette manufacturers, all the cigarette manufacturers, through legally binding agreements. We need to tackle it on a worldwide scale through this protocol with the World Health Organization, but we simply need to cooperate better between the member states and with our third country partners in order to ensure that the organised criminals do not benefit from the proceeds of their crime.
We had a first regulation on counterfeiting, which came out 20 years ago. Every year we find that we've got more and more counterfeiting and on a wider range of products which become more dangerous for public health and safety. The financial crisis is going to create a disastrous situation. In a tiny region, 30,000 plants have closed in a tiny area of China. First of all, you're going to have counterfeiting factories which are going to replace the factories for real goods, and then you're going to get a shift to the Western countries. Production is going to grow all the time, and consumption is going to grow all the time too.
We have 5 important cases being dealt with by Europol today. We're working closely with our partners represented here today, and I think we've got a good chance of actually getting good results, concrete results, in terms of our operation. The World Customs Organization is very involved. And then the Camorra, they have generated 300 million euros through counterfeiting in 12 months. Then piracy. The sector generates huge profits and therefore appeals to criminals. You've got the top sites that we have to target. It's difficult to get people lower down, or easier to get people lower down the chain, but we want actually, the masterminds behind all of this in order to be able to protect intellectual property at the end of the day.
There is strong political interest to combat counterfeit and piracy. In the Council resolution, it set out some very clear instructions to the Commission and the Member States with regard to customs. It invited the Commission and the Member States to elaborate a 4-year action plan to combat counterfeit and piracy. Following the Council resolution last September, under the French presidency, a meeting took place in Paris of all the customs director generals of the EU member states, and there was a consensus about how customs should react to the problem. Towards the end of the year, there's another very important document came onto the table, and here I'm referring to something that I think most of you in this room should be very familiar with. It's the European Parliament resolution just before Christmas. In that document, which covered all sorts of areas like the multilateral framework, the legal framework at the multilateral level, relations with China and so on, there are several very direct references to customs which we can use for inspiration.
We have to say that counterfeiting is an ideal outlet for organised crime. Public awareness could be increased, make people aware of the crime that's linked to counterfeiting. Criminal sanctions will not be very high level. It's very difficult to provide proof, especially when you have cross-border operations. Amongst the proposals, one is to set up joint investigation teams who work on counterfeiting. There's a legal framework for that. There's a real need for it too. Second of our proposals, rights holders or their representative, they should be able to take part in the investigation. And let's talk about the special nature of the counterfeiting. One of our priorities is to specialize and train magistrates and the police in intellectual property rights. Now, on financial techniques, Europol have talked about that. We need more seizure and confiscation.
The WHO Framework Convention Tobacco Control Protocol on illicit trade. This we see as an absolutely first-class opportunity to put in place a global framework for strengthening the control elements against illicit trade. We fully support this initiative. We fully support the development of the protocol. It is being drafted by the WHO, so we do encourage enforcement agencies who have an interest in this issue and tax agencies who have an interest in this issue to get as involved as they can in the discussions around the development of the protocol. But it really is a key chance to give individual governments and signatory states the tools they need to become more effective in fighting illicit trade.